Okay. So how is your reading?
I don't know if it's just me, but the past 3 readings, that specific PDF, they repeat the same sentences.
It was about
it was very hard to read.
It said breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, long breath, exhale, and then the next paragraph would say breathe in. It would say the same thing.
I know. That's the tricky one. That's the difference between the Pali.
Oh, is it the translation?
No. It's like a Pali text, and it's different from Mahayana. You know, in the past, when the Buddha just passed away about 3 months, so the monk came together to decide the Buddha teaching again. So these are the methods that they could remember this teaching repeatedly. So in each paragraph, it adds some elements. You know, okay, let's say today I go to school. That's the first sentence. And the next sentence, today I go to school to my class, whichever class, right? And that's the second one. The third one is, I come to my class to meet my friends. That's the third sentence. So it just repeat again and again, but each time it adds on.
Okay.
That's why it's not confusion, but that's just come from
it is always different. It is.
It's
very hard for my brain to reread it again and not think that it's the exact same sentence.
Not exactly the same.
It's not the same.
That's why it quote again. Quote again so that you can remember. Alright, anyway.
I have a question.
Yes.
Or not a question. I know it's very weird, but I don't know if we've reached it yet. But it was talking about the 32 parts of the body meditation. How to overcome sexual lust. I know it's very weird, but the question is like, how does it work for reproduction? You know, like it.
I understand. So again, everyone has different choice. So you know, like Siddhartha, he went out to see these 4 signs, and even he enjoyed his life in the palace, but he so have them. And of course, he wanted to get out of that type of, you can say that, passion, emotion, and so forth. But for us, it's a different story. So the reason why I cover this coverage of teachings is because I want you to explore all kind of Buddhist contemplations. So, of course, after this class, you can choose whichever method is suitable for you. And you know, sometimes people are like, I prefer to stay alone. I prefer to remain single. Or the other one, I prefer to have families, big families, children, grandchildren, and so forth. So everyone is different. So this is just like you go to the supermarket, there's plenty of items you can choose from, not one item. Of course, you cannot buy all.
Right.
So this is a process of learning. Like you go to school here, right? The process of learning is to get all information, right? And of course, for the first couple of years, the freshman and sophomore year, you would not use much. The courses, the subjects that you learn in. But toward your junior and senior year, you focus on your major. And even after you finish up your BS or BA degree, you have not specialized anything yet, or probably until you go to graduate school. Of course, even while you're doing graduate school, you need to go advanced level, like if you want to become a doctor. And you may have to be specific in whichever field you want to. Like even in medical field, you can be surgeon, you can be probably doctor. So again, so this is like varieties of information for you to learn. So it's up to you. That's your choice. Of course, as human, yes, we need to produce more children to sustain human race here. But other people will say, well, I don't need that. I just want to utilize my times on this earth for my spiritual life. And other people say, no, I don't care, I just want to have money, I just want to have status. So everyone is different. Make sense now? So when you see this kind of information, it doesn't mean that the Buddha denounce the body. Remember I told you? We recognize the reality of the body. But, and once part of the Sutra, the Buddha said that you have to cherish your human body. The only human body could achieve things that beyond other animals could do. You understand that? So in Buddhist view, the human body is like the boat to cross over the ocean. If we harm this body, that means we could not achieve much. You know what happened yesterday morning? You know what happened?
The hurricane?
The earthquake?
The earthquake?
No, of course. I'm talking about earthquake in New Mexico, but here.
On campus.
Oh, the suicide?
It's male or female?
They haven't disclosed any information, just to respect the family members.
I know.
But there's a vigil tonight for he or she.
They
still haven't released any information about the student.
Yeah, you see, sometimes it's just so stressful, right?
Yeah.
This happened. And the last few years, this one lady, she's 19 years old, she was accepted into UPenn, UPenn University. Pennsylvania is
Very good school.
Very good school for medical field. So she jumped onto the road to the bridge. There's so much stress.
Wow.
I don't know which. But so my point is that so you have to see two sides of the coins. One thing is you need to recognize the reality of this body. Another one is to recognize that when we have this body, we have to cherish so that we can achieve something, whether it's in the financial situation or in the spiritual dimension. Is up to you. Yeah, it's just the first time happened in our campus.
Yeah, it's never happened. I mean, of course, students commit suicide, but it's never happened on campus. Like the student must, because it happened between midnight Tuesday and 6 a.m. Wednesday, so the student must have come onto campus purposely. I don't know if it was for some type of reaction or to make a statement. Maybe school is just too stressful. I don't know. They didn't leave a note. So
how high is it?
It was, I think, the third floor from Agnes Arnold, so 3 floors down. And
is it open? It's open.
Yeah, it's open. It's an open balcony.
Probably.
Yeah. And there was like blood splattered.
Really? You saw that?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, this happens especially for the young people.
Especially for young people.
They don't know how to handle their mentality. That's why we're here. We learn how to handle our mind for our education, for our future development, so whichever way. Yeah, otherwise it's not easy. Sometimes, especially for the freshmen, it's not easy for them to adjust into the college life.
It's much different than
yeah, much different. Yeah, I know one lady, she got scholarship in high school. She got 4.0, but for for her freshman year, she failed. She got only 2 points. So depressed. She's so first grade, and I told her the more it more. So later on, she catch up with the GPA and she got out of college successfully. So the times not adjustment. So that's why we're here to deal with all kind of mentality. All right, so let's move on then. Yeah, so don't be surprised. Like that's the pattern. I mean, I'm talking about the reading. That's we can say that's kind of classical reading.
Yeah. Okay.
So just add up. Sometimes even me too. Sometimes it's boring, but still that's the way they remember the Buddha teachings. And actually, if you go to Thailand, Burma, Tibet, and I have seen that. I went to Dharamsala 1998, 1999, and I saw a large group of monks, they convene, they have the convention there. They came together to recite this Buddha teaching based on this kind of methods. And historically, more than 200 years after Buddha's death, the Buddhist teachings were written down. More than 200 years, but before they were recalled orally. So that's why that's the method for them to remember much easier. Okay, so let's move on today. Mindfulness of the Dharma. So we have for the foundation of mindfulness, we have mindfulness of the body. Remember that mindfulness of the feeling, mindfulness of the mind, and now the last one, mindfulness of the Dharma. Now the third three, mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the feeling, mindfulness of the mind. Important thing is to recognize them. You don't need to do anything. Just recognize them as the way they are, with your pure mind. That's the important thing, no matter what you learn here. So that is the basic approach of this kind of mindfulness practice. That you see things as the way they are, that's all. You don't need to analyze whether it's good or bad, whether it's convenience or not. Just accept that's the way they are. Should start with the body. Remember we talked about that, right? Just accept who we are, that's all. If we add more elements, okay, and this is the way I dress like this and that, I compare and so forth. That's where suffering comes from. That's where emotion comes from. And even the feeling too, like you told me. Everyone of us has the similar feelings, but of course everyone is different. Some of us may have stronger feelings, specific feelings may be stronger than others, but still have that kind of feeling. But the important thing is, like if someone says something about the way you talk, right? Most of the time we drag on the spot, right? But now in the mindfulness, okay, just listen, that's all. Stop. We stop the analytical thinking. Make sense? We stop the discrimination. At that moment will be sad. Otherwise, if we move on, that's where emotion comes. That's why anger comes. That's why attachment comes. That's why sometimes, like you can mention, right? We don't know about why that student jump, but probably sometimes, most of the time, it's related to emotions that he or she could not handle. But if we accept that's the way they are, we can move on. Okay, let me show you. I think this video clip, and I think it'll be more helpful because sometimes it's actually Buddhist meditation related to the mind. That's why we have to know the function of the mind.
Welcome to part 2 of the brain's inner workings. Here we explore the neurobiological basis of higher brain function. Previously, we examined how individual brain cells communicate through specialized connections called synapses. Now we can begin the fascinating look into how groups of neurons work together. Interconnected groups of neurons in the brain are responsible for higher order thinking and complex behavior. Through investigating the brain on the chemical, functional, and anatomical level, scientists unravel the vast power of the brain in health as well as disease. Neurotransmitters are chemicals that give rise to our everyday life, our actions, our moods, and our behaviors. The chemicals pass from neuron to neuron via synapses. Within the synapse, the glucose metabolism of the mitochondria and the electrical impulse of the action potential cause the vacuoles to intersect with the cellular wall and release neurotransmitters between junction membranes. Different functions and behaviors are localized in certain brain regions. Using this knowledge, the brain's many different mental functions can be broken down into more easily approachable elements. By looking at these smaller parts of brain regions and activities, a more comprehensive understanding of overall brain function can be built. For example, the circuits involved in vision receive information from the retina. After initial processing, these circuits analyze information in different streams so that there's one stream of information describing what the visual object is, and another stream is concerned with where the object is in space. Once function is understood in the less complicated elements of brain organization, then this information can be reassembled to help understand the workings of the whole brain. Laboratory rats guide researchers to form a better understanding of complicated brain processes. For example, studying the rat within a maze helps uncover general principles about learning that can be applied to many species, including humans. Rats are good at remembering where things are and how to get them. Here the rat has learned how to find a tasty treat each time he walks around the triangular maze. But there's a catch. He has to turn in the maze in the opposite direction from the last try in order to get his treat. First left, then right, then left, then right. Using sophisticated techniques, it's possible to listen to the sounds of groups of brain cells firing before the rat makes his left-right decisions. Listen how the neurons fire very quickly just before he makes his turns. That is the sound of his brain cells remembering where the treat is and where to get it. The lessons learned from the rat can be used to understand a similar process in the human brain. To do that, scientists can use technologies developed in recent decades such as functional magnetic resonance imaging, or fMRI. This allows the imaging of functional activity in the living brain. The fMRI machine makes it possible to take pictures of activity within a living brain. This is not a picture of the neurons or pathways, but instead it's an image of the activity occurring among those neurons and pathways. This is an indirect approach as it uses a marker for neuronal firing. In this case, it detects blood flow and blood oxygenation to provide maps of brain activity. We can see the localized increases in blood flow as the brain capillaries expand in size. Blood flows more rapidly through a larger tube. This increase can be used to map brain activity in response to specific tasks and stimuli, like remembering. As with all other organs, the brain is subject to malfunction. Complex problems like understanding depression and schizophrenia can now be addressed using these and other techniques. Here's an example of the kind of information we get when comparing the brains of normal and mentally ill people. The image on the left is from a normal subject. On the right is a schizophrenia patient, where we can see the vast differences in the amount and location of brain activity. Clearly, several systems, including higher cognitive processes, hearing and movement, are impacted in this disease. Imaging provides a way to identify how the brain processes information differently in schizophrenia. As scientists are learning more about brain circuitry, they are learning more about which circuits are involved with specific tasks. This makes it possible to compare brain regions in healthy people and people with mental illnesses. However, mental disorders are very complicated and still not well understood. These disorders affect our most complex brain processes, like thinking, mood, and behavior. There are several factors that contribute to mental illnesses, including environmental conditions, social events, genetics, and large chemical imbalances. What is clear is that mental illnesses are as devastating as any physical illness. Ultimately, basic and clinical research will unlock the mysteries of mental illnesses.
Okay, probably later on, when we come to the part of modern practice of mindfulness, we see many images brain image that they have scanned to show the difference between the normal brain and the meditator's brain. Have you seen this one before? So now it's so advanced that they have this kind of MRI. Have you had that scan before? Or it's called?
Where you go through the donut? Yeah.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's for the diagnosis or?
I think it's when I had pneumonia, but they didn't know what was wrong, so they were doing all the tests that they could do.
Yeah, so this be advanced. So let me get your name first before I forget. If you come late and you have not told me to mark with him, so let me know.
It's number 10.
Okay. Are you here?
What?
In number 10?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm on this one. Did you sign up with anything last Tuesday? Did you sign up with any forum?
Yeah, I'm still definitely leaning towards the Thailand trip.
Huh?
I'm still definitely leaning towards the Thailand trip.
Oh, good then.
Yeah.
Wow, it's a bit cheap
Mm-hmm.
compared to other package.
Mm-hmm. And the duration too, because I know there was one going to Europe, but it was only like 9 days.
Oh, pretty short.
Yeah, just like kind of like a little trip.
Mhm.
So you need to, it's like, you said 14 days, right?
Yeah, 2 weeks. But you may need to subtract 1 day or 2 days of flying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so anyway, so very good then. Okay, let's go back. So again, that's why they say Buddhism is the way to study about the mind, about how to transform the mind for better. Alright, so that's why now mindfulness is Dharma. Okay, the Dharma here probably you may not understand much, but include everything. I will skip this one, 5 hindrances, we talked about that. This 5 hindrances, that's by obstruction when we do meditations. Of course, it's many of them, but the Buddha generalized them in a group of 5. And the Dharma is talking about the view, things happen internally and externally, physically and mentally. That's what we call Dharma. Of course, in Buddhist view, we have the term Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Dharma in those terms, and that's the perspective is goes as the Buddha teachings. But here, this Dharma is mean everything, the internal aspect of our life and external aspect of our life. So that's what it's about. So what they call the 5 aggregates and the historical teaching. This one and Dhamma sense. Again, it's talk much about the mind. I will show you the and they talk about the awakening factors. Like it's the view about the portable truths. So basically, the mindfulness of Dharma is just, you have to be mindful of things that are happening in yourself and your surrounding, as well as the secular life and the spiritual life that's related to Buddhism. So that's the whole spectrum of Dharma there. Okay. Now, last time we talked about this, right? And thanks for reminding me. Otherwise, why so we're talking, I forgot the times. Yeah, we was on time. Thanks for your help too. We read that last time. This is okay. So confidence. Again, I told you that confidence is like the energy that we transform from our past in the present, and future, and this in the form of mind, the matter. Or you can say the thought and the matter. The thought here, the reason why we use mind here, because it includes the feeling, and include the perception, information of our mind. It's not only the thought and matter. Of course, we study about the 4 red elements, right? Right, the earth, the water, the fire, the wind. So it's obvious we can recognize them. Okay, here. So this is the consciousness. This is for the matter. The eyes, ears, the nose, the tongue. This is the physical body here. And consciousness is related to the feeling, the formation, perception here. We talked about that the last time, and I want to repeat one more time to you to see. So the mind matter, that's why we have this body. This is sense-based, the mind and the body. And the Buddha said the 5 aggregates. The first one is Dharma, that means the feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness, and Rupa, this is the mind. Again, this is our body here. The whole, the physical body, the feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, perception, experience, encounter, consciousness by part of the sixth sense, and mental formations. Mental formation is like the habitual pattern that you perceive things based upon your genetics, based upon your cultural background, based upon your education, personal experience, so forth. We will talk about that. And the perception, this means things. I will show you this rolled out here too. These are the one here, the 5 aggregates. So basically, the Buddha said that this what about ourselves, physically and mentally. You understand that? Not only body, but include the feeling, the perception, and so forth. That's why Buddhist psychology is so compatible with Western psychology. Alright, here, the form, we know that physical body, perception, sense, an object as either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Remember, up to now too, if you're mindful with your body, if you're mindful with your feeling, if you're mindful with your mind, or even the Dharma, whichever things, just see them as the way they are, that's all. Don't manipulate them. That's why we have the training from breath. Just observe the breath as the way they are, that's all. So we can reverse the pattern of using analytical thinkings in other things, like we talked before, right? That's why it keeps our mind running racing. We have that racing mind, racing thought at night. Anyone of you have problem with sleeping?
My boyfriend does though.
Oh, really?
We did yoga and it helps though. He just had to mellow out his head. Just thinking.
Yeah. You take dancing too?
No, I just lay there until I fall asleep, but it's because I used to be more active, so I said maybe if I go running, because I stopped running for a long time, and I'd start like running or going to go walk, and when I would go walk at the park, I'd come back and I'd be like, it'd be easier to fall asleep for me. I guess I just needed to go.
How about you?
Just always thinking, so since I started taking this class and just the readings and stuff, it helped calm my mind and I sleep a lot better.
Reverse pattern, this is our choice. Our choice to raise with the thought, our choice to sleep peacefully, right? And that's why many people find meditation is very helpful, or even understanding the parts of the mind. You can have a choice to stop, but we'll talk about that more. Okay. The perception, sense of the object, either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Next Saturday, you mark on calendar, and we have the meditation practicum there, and we do walking, standing, body scan, and even eating meditation to eat in mindful way. That means whichever food we consume, just accept that. Then this means, okay, this isn't, the Vietnamese food, Chinese food, American food, and so forth. Food is just food, of course, as much as they are consumable, as much as that's eatable. So that's the way we reverse our views to choose from this and that, right? Imagine the day that even most of you, especially you are ladies, you cook at home or your parents. You imagine that whoever, your siblings, whoever, that in your families, they come back from work or from school, and after you spend hours cooking for them, and they say, no, I don't like it. It's hurt, right? Because it's not their appetite, it's not much their appetite is hurtful, right? But if they say, okay, I really appreciate the food that you laid on the table for me, you'll be happy. And that's the way we can create this kind of harmonies in the families. If you're so picky, right? It is a problem there. And that's why, even not talk about the food, but when you deal with people, they're really picky on the way they say it. I don't know whether you like to hang around with that type of people or not. You understand that? So we have tendency that we like to go, to make friends with easy going friends. Of course, in some kind of limitation, but my point is that if we are more open-minded, if we not picky and so forth, in our part, our life much more easy. Wherever we go, whichever thing we eat and so forth. Do you have any problems? Let's say if you go somewhere else to visit your family members or your friends, you have problem of strange place to sleep. You have that problems. Right. So just make a judgment. Yeah, accept the way they are. Of course, as long as you can sleep there, as long as it's not too hot and not too cold. Understand that? Yeah. So this is the way you can have to build up our skill of adaptation by accept things the way they are. That's all. We can move on. We can handle things in any circumstances. I have not watched much about what they call is that survival? What do you call? Is that right?
When they're on the island.
Yeah, imagine that you were there. How can you survive? It's not easy. Right? You have to have this kind of adaptation skill to handle anything that's happening. Life is not straight, right? It's up and down. Sometimes this is smooth, sometimes this has all kind of obstruction in starting with whichever. So this is why you have that kind of knowledge, information and a plus of practice to accept the things as they are. And you can move on in your starting, in any circumstances. In future, when you have the children, when you have families, when you have a job, so whichever. This is more easy for you to have that kind of skill. Okay? So again, perception, ability to interpret the information to receive from perception and formulate the idea. Relation, let's just talk about the mental habit. Sometimes people have the habit of smoking, of drinking. This is, of course, a bad stuff that we don't want to do with. But sometimes it's a good habit. Wake up early in the morning, drinking coffee or tea. This is that kind of habit. That's what we call relation. And of course, we talk a little bit about consciousness too. Here, this is the chart here. Actually, I will put this PowerPoint on the blackboard for you to. You like it? I will put this so that you can follow this chart. And this is for eyes, the form, the visual consciousness, the ears, the sound we know, right? And so forth. Body, tangible, okay. So here, aggregate is the form, the sensation, perception, formation, consciousness, as in the base, that's the function of them, the visible form, sound, and so forth, a mental object to see, to recognize, internal, sense-based, eyes, and so forth, the mind, and ultimate reality, which is from material phenomena, this is mental factors, and so forth. And we talk about the mind. Siddha, this means in Pali Sanskrit too. Talking about the mind is about all the components that colors. So they divide into 3 different groups. And here is human again. That is part of us. For the matter, the elements or extension, right, of earth, the skeleton, whichever, the water, the fluid in our body, the heat, we will have the heat, and the motion, the wind, the air in and out of the body, the mind, sensation. So again, these are the whole aspect of human life, not one aspect. Here, mental perception. Okay, what's the perception here? We have emotional, evaluation, interest from knowledge, influence from focus, attention, learning and adaptation, and so forth. Here, computer input. We see things, right? We see things whichever. We see, we hear, and of course through the eyes, through the nose, and go through the brain, the mind. We process thinking and memories, and we have action there. Like if we see hamburger, oh I like it. Say I like it, and they go there and buy and eat. Right here, that's again the word here, and whichever information it goes through our perception, thinking, and recognize them, and analyze them, and of course put the action. Eating, drinking, whichever, that's here. Outside, within sense, outside the body. Those are the features that's not written in Buddhist text, but somehow it's so similar. That's why I use them. The sight, the sound, smell, touch, the taste, and into perception, headache, hunger, sense inside. So when you smell something, right? If it's fragrance, you like it. But when you smell something, like when you pass through the landfill, right? You get hot hair. So that's what we are exempt to, the 5 sense. And here we see the trees image. We analyze, we like it, and we don't like, or we block that side out, or it may give you some bright idea about the trees. So that's the idea there. Low levels of perception, right? Automatic reaction. We see the fire, right? It's burned. We step out. And higher level, hand-eyes coordination, like you do the math. Okay, here perception, attention, single stream consciousness, and so forth. At high level, again, to long-term contours, planning activities, moment to moment, and so forth. I like to show you another things that relate to the perception. I think you like it one. It's short.
And creates a fluid experience in consciousness, from the jarring screech of a police siren to delicious smells enveloping your favorite restaurant. Information from your senses allows you to move smoothly throughout your day-to-day adventures. But how does perception really work? The brain is really like a giant reducing valve, eliminating all of the competing signals from your environment and formulating a coherent picture of what stimuli are most important to every moment. For example, if you're in a smelly bar listening to a talented jazz musician, your brain will naturally eliminate the nefarious smells and focus on the sound of the music. According to Dr. Joe Dispenza, the brain processes 400 billion bits of information per second, but we are only aware of 2,000 of those. Clearly, the brain is processing an inconceivable amount of information that never makes it to conscious awareness. And even with all of this information your brain is taking in from your senses and processing, there are concrete limits to our perception. The range of frequencies that can be picked up by the human ear is 20 to 20,000 hertz. A bat is capable of hearing up to 300 kilohertz. That's up to 150 times more sensitive than a human ear. Human eyesight can only pick up light with a wavelength between 380 and 760 nanometers. This is an extremely small window if you consider the infinite ocean of vibrational energy that we live in. Animals like cats and owls not only have a larger field of vision, but they can also see much better in the dark. Our sense of taste pale in comparison to the large catfish that can have as many as 175,000 taste buds. Humans only have 10,000. As far as odor detection goes, the African elephant trumps all others with 1,948 genes dedicated to smell. Humans place 13th in the animal kingdom with 396 olfactory genes. Signals from touch receptors paint a very important picture of the world in our brains. Touch receptors are not distributed evenly over the body. The fingertips and tongue may have as many as 100 per square centimeter. The back of the hand fewer than 10 per square centimeter. Our skin also has receptors for pain, temperature, and proprioceptors that sense the position of the different parts of the body in relation to each other and the surrounding environment. The star-nosed mole eclipses the human sense of touch with more than 6 times the amount of sensitivity of the entire human hand, just on its nose. There have also been reports since antiquity of a 6th human sense, the ability to receive information directly through our minds. As humans, we take in all of this data from the environment and experience reality in fluid, conscious intervals. Before that happens, each specialized part of the brain works together and processes these signals into a meaningful worldview. Let's dive into each section of the brain and develop a better understanding of how we process human reality.
See, this is so wonderful for the function of our brain, right? Without technology, we would not recognize that. So that is a function of our perception and the sensation. We talked about that last time about the feeling. We have good feeling, bad feeling, feeling fat, astral, gain value, and so forth. That's what we recognize as danger. We fear. We have that fear. We want to escape, and so that we can be safe. So these are the feelings that we would need to have, and we recognize them. And this is normal human feeling. But again, the feeling arise, recognize, and right, feeling born from the eye contact, ear contact, and we know, right? Last time we talked about that. And this is pleasure, in general, pleasurable, or painful, or neutral. That's the idea. In the way that in science, they study about the feeling, perception, and so forth to recognize their functions. In Buddhist approach, we recognize them, but here we try to remind here neutral. That's important. To recognize them as the way they are, not to manipulate them. That's why we want to get back to the nature of how our mind, our physical entities. That's important. That's a big difference between science and Buddhist psychology. And I don't know whether you study yet in psychology how to deal with the patients who has depression.
Oh yes.
How?
Well, it just depends. So there's like levels of depression. So you have general depression or anxiety and depression, or because a lot of mental disorders, they coexist with something else. Mm-hmm. So most likely a person who has depression has anxiety, or depression has schizophrenia, or something like that. So we first have to understand, is it just depression, or do they have a second underlying cause? Like, are they anxious and depressed? And then after you find out like the coexisting disorders, then you go about the treatment plan, or even if they need drugs. Mm-hmm. So either they have like cognitive therapy, talk therapy, group therapy, or drug therapy. So there's really like 5 main categories to treat depression. Well, depression isn't treatable to make living with depression as normal and easy as possible, because depression never goes away.
So most of the time, the drug therapies should
well,
be
yeah,
used
drug
most
therapy,
of the time.
unfortunately, it is just because it's the cheapest, it's the easiest, and it's the fastest. Because you have to, getting involved with talking to a psychologist regularly is expensive, and if your insurance doesn't cover it, you're kind of out of luck. So most likely you're prescribed a drug.
The drug so that they can somehow change
The neurotransmitters in your brain.
receptors and neural
exactly.
system, right?
Because there isn't a specific cause for depression, but it's most widely known that the neurotransmitters in a person's brain is not right, like it's imbalanced. So we're hoping that the drug that we give these patients will help put their neurotransmitters in balance of sorts.
So, but the drugs may have some side effects.
Exactly,
right?
very much so, like insomnia, lack of appetite, irritable, but
yeah, that's why later on we study about the approach, what they call MBCT, mindfulness-based cognitive therapies that they use. You know about that stuff, right? They use this mindfulness practice to help this kind of patient who have the depression instead of taking drugs. It's more healthy.
exactly.
It's more in a holistic way. So if you don't involve with drugs, it will, if you get back in a healthy way, it lasts longer. Otherwise, yes, if you take drugs or whichever symptoms, whichever illness, you will have some kind of side effect there. So anyway, so again, this type of trainings will help us to get back to our nature way of life. This one we know, right? The feeling depend upon the mental object, visible object, and so forth. We have that type of craving and mental formation. That's why I told you about the habitual patterns. That's how we see things, how we interact with others. That's because of our genetics, because of our culture, because of our education background, and so forth. Like some of us like to sleep early or stay late. It's just a habit too. You guys sleep late or stay back late. It's not good habit, right? And there's just many sensitive paper that talk about if you stay too late, right, you would not have much energy for a day. So it's better for me. And of course, it's even in Buddhist monastery and temple, it's a sport house in here. We go to sleep not too early, around 11, 10, 11, that is better. And wake up early, 4 or 5. It's better to go to sleep early and wake up early. You have more energy in your day. Anyway, so there's a habitual pattern, whether it's good or bad, in both sides. And here's again the mental formation. Sometimes you don't read attachment. It's just common as the habit too, right? Right? We get used to that again and again, right? That is why we have the type of mental formation and try to envy jealous and faith and so forth, because when we were young, we would not have much of this type of habit. You know, sometimes people like to have some spicy food, right? Some hot pepper, right? Yeah. Without hot pepper, they would not feel much about the food. It's just a habit too. But throughout the years, they accumulate this type of mental formation. They have it. So every one of us has different habit. So how we recognize them, that's up to us. Okay. So the consciousness, we talk about that later than before. In the blink of an eye's blink consciousness, go ahead, start and follow. Remember, Peter mentioned that about, I think, about modern dealers, what Peter mentioned about on video clip. Remember that? within I think a moment or a minute, more than billions neural activities, but we recognize or we use only 2,000 of them, remember? So that's what in Buddhist view. In the blink of eyes, we have billions of consciousness. You can say the neuron or the synapse activities between our brain there. But of course they come and go, arising, status, and cessation, and that's whichever. Okay, and we see, this is like we see things, we analyze this, we recognize this, but it depends upon our views. The same way too. The eyes and the consciousness are the aware color and sound the same. Okay, object. The person recognizes the river, trees, and so forth. Now again, last time I talked about this one, right? So it's understandable. Let me skip this one. So remember, the eye consciousness is the storage consciousness, which have information that you have seen, that you have heard, that you have tasted, and so forth. You store there. That's like common sense. Common sense does, because we get used of eating hamburger here when we go abroad. Hopefully in Thailand they have McDonald's there, or Burger King there. So we get used of that. So when we go somewhere else, we look for similarity. We feel more safe, we feel more comfortable because we know, oh, this is good for us. That's why depend upon the information you store here. It will determine who you are. That's why the Buddha said that it's better for us to accumulate good deeds, to develop the good habitual patterns than the bad one. You know, many people, many inmates or criminals, they come in and out of the jails. Why? Because the habitual patterns. Of course they got stuck with the drugs, make the chemical with drugs, and they somehow the friends they associate with, of course, they live in bad environment and are associated with bad people. And so when they get out, some of them have more tendency because they feel good about their friends, the energy or the chemical of the drugs that's stored here, stored in the consciousness. That's why they commit the crimes again. It's not easy to break up. It's not easy for those kind of people. Of course, for a little habitual pattern, it takes time so to break up too. Especially, of course, when we talk about drinking alcohol or smoking, it's not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy to break up. So it's better not to get stuck with those kind of bad habitual patterns. But of course, even wake up early in the morning, that's a part of the habit that we built for so many years. Because we know, we recognize us. And for me, I cannot sleep unless I stay too late, 2 or 3 a.m. But somehow my brain would not function efficiently after 2. I cannot stay that late. So usually I go to sleep around 11 or 12 and wake up sometimes 4 or 5. So that's just our habit then. Okay, here you see that is the list of the charts, right? The visual, the eyes, the visual form, the eye consciousness, the short-term memory, long-term memories, depend upon how much information that we process, things that we recognize, the things that remember. When we talk about long-term memory, remember last time we talked about like and dislike. When you love someone, they give you some kind of pleasure, feeling, right? You keep here a long-term memory here. Is that right? Wherever you go, you remember that person. And vice versa. Sometimes some people give you hard times. You put this kind of information on your memory too, right? So that's why when you see them again, you want to stay away from them. And what happened in Buddhist view? You know, what happened when we move to the next life? Again, even we don't recognize them exactly in the same form as we have seen them before, but consciously we still recognize them. Our intuition recognize them. You understand? So if your mind is clear, and if your mind peaceful and calm, somehow that kind of what they call the sixth sense there. And of course, for us, even for me, I cannot have that kind of ability. Sometimes, if people calm their mind enough, they could recognize other people's thoughts. Have you heard about that?
Is that real?
It's real.
Maybe like kind of empathic.
Yeah.
You can say that. And actually, my master, he has that skill. Yeah, and no, it is common sense. Let's say when you go to supermarket, my point is whenever you go to any public place, right? Airport, supermarket, so there's so much noise around, right? You cannot recognize things clearly. But when you sit here in this quiet room, of course, I still have my accent, but still you can recognize my expression because you pay attention on that, right? But if you sit still by yourself in this room alone, right, you could recognize the sound that they're talking over there. Is that right? So my point is that when your mind calming up, you have that skill. And we have that type of skill. It's inherited with us. No one gives us, but we have that kind of skill already. So the important is how we calm our mind, how we pacify our mind, that's all. And that's why when you really want to remember about whichever thing you learn for your midterm or your exam and so forth, you need to sit still and concentrate on that, learning sentence by sentence, para by para. Especially if you go to medical field, right? You need to have good memory. In order to have good memory, you have to have that kind of mindfulness too. When I was young, I like to become a doctor too, but I know myself I would not have that type of skill. My memories will not last long. So you have to memorize a lot, all kinds of terms. So you have to know your skill. Again, if you are mindful enough, yes, that may enhance your long-term memory. That would be helpful for any aspect of life. Okay, here I said, we work with the same too. This is just the mark. This slide that you recognize. And here is the thing I want to discuss briefly again too. The eyes, the object, the eye contact, ear, sound, right, and so forth. And through the contact, right. Let's say the eyes, or let's say the pen. Okay, without holding this pen, I would not feel it. I could see, but I could not recognize the weight of it until I pick up it. So there's a true contact here. I have a feeling, oh, I like this, or I don't like this pen. So that is the and mental formation is same. When I have good feeling about whichever, with people or with friends, with things, I like it, and it become habit. That I like to eat hamburger, I like to eat spaghetti, whichever. So that is the same plan here. And the more you want, the more you have. Whenever you build up that type of mental habitual patterns, you like more and you attach more. And that's just the whole mind is about. And that's why. That's what the next one is. Remember, we talk about contemplation of the body of the four animals, and contemplate of the feeling, good feeling, bad feeling, whichever feeling from the eyes, from anything out there, and contemplate of the consciousness of the mind. There we learned last time, and now today contemplate a mental object. for the mind or the perception for our mental formation, we recognize the same mind. And now here, this is important. 2 stages in contemplation of the 5 aggregates. That's why I did mention recently. We recognize the material form of the body, the feeling, condition, volition, that means the formation of the mind, consciousness. Knowing the impermanence and nature of each aggregate.
Thank you.
And recognize the way as they are. That's all. So the whole Buddhist approach is to remind you to use the pure mind. Don't use the analytical thinking. If you just use your intuition. Remember I told you last time, right? If you look at her water bottle, yeah, just recognize water bottle, that's all. If we stop that without any kind of thinking, oh, it's good, bad, and so forth. I like it or I don't like it. That's where problem comes from. Of course, when we go to school, we learn, right? We learn to analyze things, but still, in reality, when you do things, it's better to use intuition. It's better with anything of things, any things are happening. It's better to have the broadened view, to have the impartial view. Makes sense? To have the pure view. Otherwise, if we remember we talk about love, blind us, right? Or anger, blind us too. So that's two poles, right? If we swing our emotion to these 2 poles, we're going to see things the way they are. So if we remain neutral, remain in neutral ground, we see in the whole picture. That's what it's about. No impermanent nature of each aggregate, and no recognize as the way they are. 2 stages of the contemplation of the 6th sense, spur. Eyes, visual, and feather. Feather here is mean attachment, the dejection. That's what we talk about. Now here, let me give you one example. Let's say when you drive the car in the street and someone cut you off, how can you handle? Remember we talked about that, right? How can you handle? Just accept that and move on. That's their problems. So but if we yell, if we swear, we cannot solve the problems. So that's the important thing. Of course, we don't encourage them to do that, but the only thing we can handle is ourselves, our emotions. When your friends have some kind of emotion and they blame on you or whichever, how can you handle? Again, that's your choice. It's a choice whether you accept or not. That's why the Buddha is in some of the teaching. It's one story that one day the Buddha walked on the street with his attendants, and one guy followed them and yelled and scolded the Buddha for the whole trip. And his attendant told the Buddha, please go to different places. We could not handle this guy. The Buddha said, okay, what happened if we go to different places and we still see this kind of people? Where we go? We go again and again. So he remained calm and he walked to a tree and sat down there. So the man came and asked the Buddha, I scold you for the whole way out. So you angry with me? So the Buddha said, well, like if someone give you a gift, if you don't accept that, what that person does with the gift? That person keep the gift. Make sense? So if someone scold you, if someone criticize you in the improper way and so forth, if you don't accept that, all the energy, all the negative energy, all the negative expression, they go back to that person. Make sense? That's just one way. That's one way the Buddha taught us. Just remain calm, whichever situation. And we have the choice to accept to let go. Make sense? So that's the whole thing. Here, if failures arise, if someone gives you hard time, yes, you recognize as knowing the conditions that lead to arise, and why people score us and so forth. If failures has been, if anger is present, we recognize and let go of them. It's not easy until we do meditation, until we start with our breath. Then, okay, that's what the whole idea is about. So again, too. Now here, when in the sins we be only what is sin. In the hear, only what is heard. In the sense, only what is sense. You see that? We're going to say stop to analyze things. Just see the thing that's the way they are. That's all. That's what they call the bare awareness. And the next few weeks we talk about the Zen tradition. I think you guys like me to share more Zen story about this type of bare awareness that relate to Zen. Somehow, in Zen tradition, the Zen master they didn't say much. They didn't talk much about the theories or principle. They talk about the things in realities. Let me give you one example. This is one master. He walked to the field with his disciple, and his disciple looked up to the sky, and he saw the birds. They fly above their head, and this disciple, he's so excited. Oh, master, this is the bird, the special bird. I forgot the name, but he pointed out to the sky, to the flock of birds. Oh, the flock of birds there. So what happened? The master looked at him and used his hand to pour his nose down. Probably you don't understand why he did that, right? And of course he poured hardly, and when the disciple got back to the monastery, he cried and he laughed. Probably you don't understand what's happening, right? You don't understand, right? Why? Why he cried and he laughed? You know why?
Did the birds poop on him or something?
Did
the birds poop on him or something because he looked at it?
What's that? Sorry.
The birds that were flying over, did they defecate on the right point?
No. The master, when the student point his finger to the sky, that told the master, oh, there was a flock of birds up there, right? That's what the master uses his finger to pour down the student's nose strongly and hardly. And he cried on the spot too. When he got back to the temple, he still cried, but later he laughed. You know why? Any idea why? Of course, if someone pull your nose, right? It is hurt, right? Of course, that's why he cried. But why? Why he laughed later on? Why? He crazy? Why?
I guess just laughing at himself in the sense of how he could be so happy and so sad within a matter of seconds, just kind of like learning to laugh at yourself, not take yourself seriously.
Almost close there. Now, why the master pulls down his nose? Remember, in Buddhism, we look within, not look without. When look without, there's all kind of things happening out there. It will be destruction. Like if you sit there and you really focus on the beat of your heart, that's only one beat of heart. What you can recognize eventually, you recognize that sound. Could you have that skill yet? Could you listen to your beat of heart yet? You heard that yet?
I can feel it.
Of course, if you put your arms, your palm around your chest, you recognize it. But if you sit there to start to do meditation, at first you will not recognize much, right? But eventually, if you pay attention more about your body, you recognize that. And when you recognize your heartbeat, the sensation of your body, that's the first step to recognize your mind. And that's the way of the Zen ways to look within. But when you listen to sound, all kind of sounds, when you sit here, or the sound of the professor next room, the sound of the projector or whichever, it's so many kind of sounds, so much things that happening, there's confusion. But if you look within only one, eventually it's only one. That's why we start with the breath. So the idea is that when the student look at the sky and point his finger to the flock of birds, the master remind him look within by pulling his nose. The nose is where we inhale, exhale, the source of our life. So through action, the master or the teacher did not say anything except doing that. Remind the student, don't look without, look within. Your breath is more important than the flock of birds up there. Understand that? Of course, at first it's hurtful for the student, but when he got back to the monastery, he recognized the teaching. That's why he laughed. Makes sense now? So that's why, somehow, if you don't understand the Zen story, it doesn't make sense at all. But if you understand the Zen story, it's still meaningful, it's still thoughtful. Alright? So that's why that's called the awareness of things, look within, with the bare awareness. And if the mind awakening, that's the other thing is what we call here mindfulness, know the presence of or absence of mindfulness, investigation of Dharma, energy, joy, tranquility, concentration, equanimity. So if we have to recognize it is present, recognize. For example, when you enjoy an ice cream, you recognize that it's there. But if you don't enjoy, if you don't smell, if you don't smell that, you have that feeling with the ice cream, you recognize too. Understand that? So that's the whole idea of to stay up contemplation of the seven awakenings after them, and concentration. When you walk from this room to the next, if you're mindful, you know, and somehow if you're not mindful, somehow you may stumble down to the floor. Right? So anyway, so that is the step you need to recognize in mindfulness, investigation, energy, reflection on the fearfulness or benefit of that, whichever, and you recognize the joy, the tranquility, good, readable, weather, comfortable, posture, balanced behavior. We have that kind of tranquility, have concentration. We recognize that whether we focus our mind in doing the task or listen to the literature or not, equanimity, we talk about that. That keep our mind at peace, keep our mind at balance, right? Not avoiding prejudice. But the judgment toward this person and that person, with that type of impartial views, whichever way they talk, whichever way they eat, and so forth. So that's related to the mindfulness of. Let me go back here of the seven awakening factors, and it's related to in this mindfulness of Dharma. We talk about the Four Noble Truths too. The other things is the secular concern. Now, this one is the spiritual concern. Especially if you're Buddhist, you need to recognize this type of teaching to develop this skill. So that's why I put again too. But we went over before, right? Let me skip down until there's just the eight four parts. Let me skip down to the place here. The five hindrances. Next class we'll talk about them. How to handle ill will, how to handle the sensual desire, how to handle the sleepiness, how to handle restlessness and remorse. That's been raising mind, raising thought. How to handle the doubt. So in the next class we discuss more. And these five basic hindrances that obstruct our concentration. Like if eyes are raising, there's no way for you to have that type of student. That's why basically they obstruct our concentration, our mindfulness. Okay, so I think we can stop here today.